Hi everyone, this is Erin with another SQL Skills Insider demo video. In this video, I want to step through a change in statistics, updates, and plan recompilation that is specific to SQL Server 2012. This is a change that Kimberly blogged about way back in October of 2012, but I found that it still catches some people by surprise, so I thought I would walk through a demo. Even if you're not currently running SQL Server 2012, this is a change you want to be aware of because you're going to upgrade to 2012 or a later version at some point, and I don't see this behavior changing anytime soon. So let's go ahead and take a look. Within Management Studio, I have just installed a fresh copy of the AdventureWorks 2012 database, which you can get from Codeplex. And we're going to confirm that auto update statistics is enabled. And just a little bit of a sidebar here. Remember that if you look at the Books Online documentation, when you update statistics, you invalidate query plans. So if I update statistics for a particular index, any query plans that use the statistic for that index are going to be invalidated. There's a caveat, though, in that if you have the Set Auto Update Statistics option to off, even when you update stats, the plans will not be invalidated. And that's really a separate discussion. I don't want to go too far into that. I've got a blog post that talks about that. But for purposes of this discussion, I would just want to mention that our auto update statistics option is on. We're not even going to invoke any auto updates through our demo, but I just want to make sure that that's enabled. And that looks like a demo for another time, maybe. So we're going to make sure we're in our 2012 database, and we're going to look at statistics for the non-clustered index, which is on product ID, on our sales order detail table. This is the table that we're going to work with today in our demo. So if we look at this, current time, it is 11:58 p.m. I'm a little bit of a night owl here. And I've got 121,317 rows in this table. It was done with a full sample. Again, I haven't modified anything. We're going to go ahead and create a procedure that queries sales order detail for a particular product ID, which will be an input parameter, and it returns product ID and also order quantity. Let's go ahead and create that. And we're going to include our execution plan in our output, and we'll set statistics IO on. And we're going to go ahead and run our stored procedure just for an input parameter, a product ID of 732. And we get 130 rows back. And if we look at our plan, we can see that we have an index seek against that non-clustered index. And we also have a key lookup because order quantity is not in our non-clustered index, only product ID is. So it has to go back to the clustered index to get the order quantity. If we run this for another value, we're going to get the same plan. We get a different number of rows returned, right? Because it's a different product ID. But we get the same plan because this is a stored procedure with a parameterized input. And so we're going to reuse that existing plan. I don't have a recompile anywhere on there. So even when I pass in a value like 870, which has over 4,600 rows returned, we still get the same plan, but it's a lot more I/O, right? To the point where this would probably be more efficient as a table scan. Now, in your environment, data is not static. It changes, right? So we're going to go ahead and modify some rows here. It ends up being 1,600 rows. And I've changed data. I haven't changed enough that's going to invoke the auto update. Again, I said that wouldn't happen here. And this still says 11:58 p.m., right? Still 121,000 rows. And if we run this query again for our value of 870, we see that we have the exact same plan. And for kicks, we can check the use count. If we look at dmexec query stats, and we also can pull the plan and the SQL text and all of that fun stuff. But really, what I want to look at is the execution count. I've run this stored procedure 4 times. Now, through the course of normal events in your system, you've got modifications occurring, and you may have updates to statistics occurring. So let's manually update statistics just to see what happens with our plan, just to prove this out. We're going to update with a full scan, and it doesn't matter whether we do a full scan or not. That's going to depend on your environment, your data. And we can prove, right, when we look at show statistics, that now it's 12:03 a.m. Oh my goodness. And we still have the same number of rows, right? We didn't add or delete data. We just modified it. So this has been updated. And so now what do we get for a plan when we run it with a product ID of 870? Again, this returns 4,600 rows. Now it returns more rows because we set it to this. but we get a different plan, right? Not because there's more rows, but because the plan was invalidated by the update of statistics. And if I look at the use count, it's back down to 1, right? It was at 4, it's back down to 1. So I mention this because very often when troubleshooting, particularly stored procedures, particularly when there's skew in data or a parameter sniffing issue, what often happens is you have a plan that's in cache and it's great for some values, but it's not so great for other values. And so a knee-jerk response is to update statistics, right? When you've got a performance issue, let's update statistics as a first response. And that may work. That can be a short-term solution, but it's not really solving your problem in the long term. And I want to show you why it's definitely probably not going to always solve your problem in 2012. So again, we're just verifying auto update statistics is on. We're using our 2012 database. We're looking at show statistics for the same exact index we were just playing with, right? We know that we just updated it, but just for fun, because I want to make sure we're all on a level playing field, I'm going to update it again. And now I'm going to query sysindexes because I want to see what's going to update. And this shows me tables in the database that have had modifications, right, based on the row mod counter. And we can see that my sales order detail table is not anywhere in this list. So I've had no changes, right? Just updated stats, no changes. We're going to drop our existing procedure and recreate it, exact same thing, again, because I'm just resetting everything. And just for good measure, I'm going to run dbcc free proc cache, which you don't ever want to do in your production environment, right? Because this removes all your plans from cache, but we're running it here just to get rid of everything. And let's enable our execution plan again. And let's run our stored procedure again. And we see we get the same plan, index seek key lookup. Great. We're going to get the same plan here. We're going to get the same plan here, right? That plan is cached. We're going to use it over and over again, even if it's more IOs than I want. If I check my use count, it should be 3, and it is. And now we're going to update statistics manually. Now, why in the heck would we update statistics manually when I haven't changed any rows? Well, this is a common response, right? There's a performance issue. This isn't running well. Let me update stats. Well, maybe you don't need to update stats. Let's update and see what happens. Again, we're in 2012. So stats have been updated. If we look at our timestamp now, we're at 12:07. What's the plan? In the previous demo, the plan changed, but in the previous demo, I had modified rows. Didn't modify any rows here. So I updated statistics, and SQL Server did update stats because that's what I told it to do. But guess what? It didn't invalidate my plan. This is the same plan that was in there before, right? I know that this is not a unique value, and in the other case, the plan got invalidated, and it gave me a plan with a clustered index scan. Well, in this case, I updated stats, but guess what? Didn't invalidate my plan because no rows had been modified, right? And my execution plan is now up to 4. So this is the link to Kimberly's post where she talks about this in more detail. But what happens is in the case where SQL Server looks and it says, well, okay, you're going to tell me to update statistics on sales order detail, and I'll do that because you told me to do it, but no rows have changed, so I'm not going to invalidate the plan. That's what's happening in 2012. If I go ahead and I update one row, okay, and now I run my query again to see what's going to update, and I see, aha, I've got sales order detail in here, one row. Now if I update stats again, and I check stats again, right, now it's 12:08, still the same number of rows because I'm not adding or deleting, I'm just modifying. What's my plan going to be? Hey, look. Now we get our clustered index scan because that update invalidated the plan because one or more rows had been modified. And if I look at the use count here, right, my execution count is 1. So I want to make sure that you understand that that's a different behavior in SQL Server 2012. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. What you need to be aware of is that before you just go and update statistics, it's a good idea to check to make sure that you need to update them. Because if no rows have been modified and you go and you update stats, you've just wasted resources updating stats and it's not invalidating your plan. So it's not necessarily going to have that same quick fix that you were seeing in previous releases. So a lot of things to consider here and pay attention to when you're looking at performance issues and statistics. So I hope that was informative and interesting and fun. And until next time, thanks for watching and thanks for being a SQL Skills Insider.